SAW grant presentation presented by Hubble, Roth, and Clark.
Well, hello council, thanks for having us here today. I'm Roland Alex. I was here last month, so we appreciate the extension to our contract, and this is a great presentation to what the city is, what we've been helping the city with the last 3 years, the SAW grant. I have Matt Hughes here. I don't do any work anymore. I have these great people who do the work for us. So this is Matt Hughes, and then Karen Stickles, one of our senior associates of the company. So with that, I'll hand it over to the people who actually did the work. So thanks again for having us here.
Okay, thanks Roland for the introduction. Name and council. Tonight we're here to present an overview of the city's stormwater asset management and wastewater grant program. This took place over the last 3 years. So we're going to talk about the background and the purpose of the grant. We'll briefly go over some of the objectives, and we'll talk about all the work that was done, as well as some of the benefits that the city received. So in 2013, the city applied for the SAW grant program through the state of Michigan that is administered through the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. At the time, it was the Department of Environmental Quality. The grant program had 4 original rounds of funding that was dispersed through selected candidates. Algonac was part of a 5th round of recipients to receive funding, and so that grant was executed in April of 2020. So we're kind of approaching our 10-year mark when the grant was first applied for. Our deadline to complete all grant activities is coming up next week, March 1st, 2023. And this program was intended to do a complete assessment on the stormwater and wastewater sewer systems in the city. So this was a great opportunity for the city to get 90% of the cost to do this assessment covered through the state. The city did have a 10% local match. Also, Algonac benefited a lot from all the experience that was obtained from the original 4 rounds of grants. There's been a great stride with improvements to technology, education, and the economic outlook for doing this type of work. So this funding opportunity was historic in nature, but this did not cover any type of construction costs. So the grant had several objectives, as well as a lot of eligibility criteria on what the funding could be used for. We're not going to get into a whole lot of detail about that, but I wanted to emphasize that these were some of the major objectives that we had to complete based on EPA's guidance for asset management. The general goal was to assess the city's sewer systems to get an idea of what kind of condition they're in, look at the system's needs for the future, and determine any capital improvement that may be required. So Eagle really wants communities to start planning for the future. Much of the state's infrastructure was constructed several decades ago. This is an overview of sewer systems. I mean, there's 3 general types of sewer systems. Sanitary sewer system collects what we flush down the drain, and that goes through a series of pipes and underground structures until it gets to a treatment plant, and then it's treated and discharged to a water body. A stormwater system collects the rainfall, precipitation, and that moves through a series of underground pipes and structures, and then reaches a water body such as the St. Carol River, right out the window there. A third type, a combined sewer system, collects what we flush, and it collects the rainwater all through the same series of pipes. Combined sewer systems are no longer constructed, but we do have several combined sewer systems in the state of Michigan, but not Algonac. So this is a schematic of Algonac sanitary sewer system. Algonac is highlighted there in red. Algonac is part of the St. Clair sewage disposal system. This was built during the 1960s, and this overall network of pipes is shared with neighboring communities such as Clay Township and parts of Ira Township. There's also a regional treatment plant there, which is that little gold star, where we have treated sewage that goes through that plant and is discharged to the St. Clair River. We also have a stormwater sewer system in the city, like I said, that collects rainwater. Prior to 1968, we had sections of the city that were combined sewer. During the construction of the sanitary sewer system, those areas were converted to stormwater use. There's also other storm sewer systems in the city owned by Michigan Department of Transportation and the St. Clair County Drain Commissioner. So to give you some perspective and put some numbers on these systems, Algonac sanitary sewer system has about 22 miles of pipe, a little over 500 manhole structures, 9 pumping stations, and we also have 3 siphon crossings. A siphon crossing is just a fancy word for a pipe, but it uses some hydraulic principles to cross waterways and underground obstructions. And those are critical to maintain sewage flow in the system based on their locations. Stormwater, we have about 10 miles of pipe, over 400 drainage structures, and 1 pumping station. Unique to Algonac, the stormwater system is constructed of a variety of different materials and construction methods based on what we observed during the SAW grant. So where do we start for this grant? For the sanitary sewer system, we were fortunate enough to know that HRC designed the system in 1967. So we had plenty of engineering drawings and reports during the 1960s that we pulled out of the archives. We found tons of newspaper clippings from during that time. I actually put one there on the slide just for fun. But on the flip side, on the storm sewer system, we had very limited documents that had information on the storm sewer systems. We know that HRC did not design the existing storm sewer system. And we know that some of those documents had conflicting information on them. And because of that, we couldn't exactly verify all of these stormwater system outlets in the city. So once we got all these records, we created a Geographic Information Systems database, GIS for short. And a GIS system is basically a mapping software that stores information. And this can be used for a variety of different applications. A GIS-based software you might be familiar with is Google Maps. It's an interactive map that you can view information on. So this is similar. So we have a map where we can toggle and click on pipes and manholes, and we can view information about them. So HRC, now that we had built that GIS system, we starting in the summer of 2021, we inspected over 700 manhole structures, and we used GIS to store all of that inspection data. So what's interesting now is you can click on a underground structure, you can view all the inspection data, what kind of repairs it might need, and you can view photographs that were taken, whether it's the pictures of the covers or the insides of the manholes. So that's an example there. Another great opportunity that we had during the SAW grant is that we got to conduct a flow metering study on the sanitary system. What we wanted to do was identify areas of high infiltration and inflow. It's what we refer to as high I&I. In a sanitary system, groundwater and rainfall can leak into a sewer system through cracks or open covers and other sewer defects. And that contributes excess flow to the system. And that flow can affect the impact to a treatment plant's capacity. And so we knew that based on some reportings, this would be important to investigate. So HRC installed about 8 sewer meters throughout the city and a rain gauge to monitor the rain that we had. And so the results of that study is that we identified 4 areas in the city that did have high I&I levels, and 1 area that was borderline based on EPA's guidance. Another thing that we got to do during the grant, the city contracted with Dosh Environmental Services out of Warren, Michigan. They cleaned and televised about 97,000 feet of sanitary sewer, so that was about 83% of the system. We also got to clean and televise about 6,500 feet of storm sewer, and that was about 12%. So you might be wondering, why did we only get 12% of the storm system? Well, we learned that during the grant period, the St. Clair River levels were very high, and as a result, what we were finding is that the storm sewers were not dewatering. The pipes were full of water and they never seemed to drain, and because they were not draining, we could not inspect them. So this limited our ability to complete the assessment in several areas of the city. We also learned that other sections of the city that were previously combined sewer, we observed that they were not functioning properly. These types of sewers had several access issues that really limited our ability to verify certain information and determine pipe flow directions, as well as some other information. So with all that cleaning and televising, these are some results of some of the sewer defects that we have found in the city. These are not stock photographs, these are real pictures. We found a wide array of leaks throughout the system, as well as some structural defects, including cracks, fractures, some repairs that were done previously that have failed, some pipes that have separated, completely separated, and now we also had some issues where utilities that have been directionally drilled through the sewers in some cases. So these are defects that are common throughout the entire country, but these are all unique to LGAC in the sense that this is what we found during that televising. So the grant also required us to do a lot of different types of evaluations for these sewer systems. We had to generate a lot of different types of scores based on Eagle's requirements. Some of those calculations that we did were the probability of failure, the consequence of failure, and a risk assessment in the city. We're not gonna have time to go through all the nitty-gritty details of those calculations, but they were required to be completed by Eagle for these asset management plans. The scores help us prioritize immediate needs in the system as well as long-term needs. So the result of that is we generated a capital improvement plan for both sanitary and stormwater systems. We looked at a 20-year period, and we looked at the pipes, we looked at the manholes, the siphons, and the pump stations, evaluated all of the things that we found, and we came up with a capital improvement estimated cost of about $300,000 per year to address these needs. I think overall, I think we found that about 1,000 leaks, 1,000 leak locations in the sanitary sewer system was roughly about 35,000 feet of pipe that was leaking. Same thing for storm. We calculated a capital improvement based plan. However, this was difficult to determine in terms of cost. Based on what we encountered, we knew that the sections that were previously combined sewer were not draining, and so we're not going to recommend to try to rehab those pipes because we know that there's likely some capacity concerns with those. So what we are recommending, at least for the storm sewer system, is to do a master plan to assess capacity, drainage outlet feasibility, and get some input on other drainage issues in the city. We also looked at the city's stormwater pumping station, the Smith Street pumping station. That is also in need of some repairs, some pump replacements. So we looked at some immediate and long-term needs of that station. We estimated that it'd be about $9,500 per year to address all of those needs. So where are we with the grant? We received about 1.1 million. We have spent about 608,000 based on the last disbursement request. I will say that there are some costs that we still have to tally up. So we'll likely be closer to the 650,000 mark. So that leaves us with about 500,000 left in terms of grant funding. Based on some of the challenges that we encountered, we couldn't utilize all the funding because of these access issues that we encountered. We had budgeted to get those pipes cleaned and televised, but we couldn't spend it. I also want to say that in 2013, the costs used in the application were also conservative. At the time, it was known that communities, they wouldn't be able to apply for more funding later. So at the time, it was better to be more conservative, get funding available, whether or not you used it or not. It was pretty common through the entire SAW grant program that communities did not spend all the funding. So just wanted to make that clear. Benefits to the city, we got to do all this great, fun engineering work, and we also got to purchase several pieces of equipment. The DPW was able to obtain several computers, printers, and software needs to do this SAW grant work. We're in the process of doing GIS training for city staff, and the DPW also got to get some sewer tools for this work. Moving forward, we're going to finish up and finalize the SAW grant reports and get them submitted to the state. We're going to keep using this GIS system because this is very customizable to the city's needs. That can be used for a variety of different things. We know that the SAW grant was for wastewater and stormwater systems only, but now that we have a GIS system for the city, the water department is starting to add their water distribution system to the GIS system, and they'll also be using it for the water service line verification project. That's also a state-funded project. So that kind of gives us the basis of the SAW grant. It was a lot of work. We accomplished a lot. So if you have any questions,
Here goes. Matt, if I may?
Yep.
Maybe I missed it, but the remaining funding of the 450,000, let's say, is that gonna expire by next week, March? Is that what I'm to assume?
Yes,
And then what happens with those funds? Do we lose them?
yes, we don't know what the state of Michigan is gonna do with those funds, at the moment, but yes.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that, is there's no way to keep some on hand, so when these pipes do drain, you've only done 12%, so we have 80% left, of course, if you don't get to all of them, but do we have to resubmit for you guys to camera the ones that you haven't done, or what do we do with the remaining piping of the sewage system that you weren't able to look at? Because it was full of water, as you said.
Right, so, so we won't be able to use the remaining, grant funding for that. Going forward, we're gonna have to think about some ways, whether or not we need to determine whether those pipes are worth inspecting or not, because if they're not functioning, that leads us to some other questions. So it's just a matter of determining, okay, what's going on in the system, and why these pipes aren't draining.
I just would hate to see that put on the back of the taxpayers when we have a saw grant that would take care of it. Of course, you understand that.
Right.
That's all I have, thank you.
Mhm.
Council? Any further questions?
I think, if I may, I think we have a lot of questions on how we're gonna proceed, but we've been given a lot of information and, potential costs in the future, and, we've got a lot to think about.
Yes, this gives us a clear understanding of what our next steps are gonna be, and that, you know, this is serious, and we gotta figure out what the next steps are gonna be to address these issues. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.